the apprentice and the master deep within the heart of an ancient tavern, where the walls breathed with echoes of 1,000 scents and secrets. The hearth fire roared. It wasn't merely heating the kitchen, it pulsed like a living heart, beating to the rhythm of culinary magic. The master stood at his workbench. His hands moved with a fluid, effortless grace, like a conductor leading an orchestra of flavors. Every motion was a silent incantation, every ingredient a note in a grand symphony. His face remained calm, but his eyes glowed with an inner fire spark of genius that could not be hidden. Beside him stood the apprentice, young, wide-eyed, and eager, yet hopelessly unrefined. He watched his mentor with the reverence one holds for a sorcerer weaving a miracle. His own hands trembled as he tried to mimic the master's flow, but the dough tore. The knife slipped, and the spices fell in clumsy heaps. "Master, how do you do it?" he whispered, his voice barely audible, as if afraid to shatter the spell of the moment. The master only smiled. It was a subtle, knowing smile, the kind that belongs to a man who sees beyond the veil. He didn't answer with words. Instead, with a flick of his wrist, he added a single pinch of dried herbs. Suddenly, the dish bloomed. The aroma unfurled like a flower opening to the sun, and the golden light of the hearth danced in the apprentice's eyes. In that moment, the boy understood. This wasn't just cooking. This was an art bordering on the mystical. And the man beside him was the alchemist who could turn ordinary clay into a revelation. The world outside seemed to freeze. There was only the crackle of the wood and the hushed breath of a student who finally realized he was standing in the presence of a talent that outshone even the stars. The dining hall was a cathedral of light and noise. Crystal chandeliers scattered golden splinters across the tables, where guests savored dishes that felt less like food and more like enchantments. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of exotic spices, aged wine, and an electric hum of expectation. The master emerged from the kitchen, and the room seemed to pivot toward him. He walked with an effortless confidence, yet his eyes held a distant look, as if he carried a secret no soul in this room was meant to decipher. Then she appeared, his most devoted admirer. Her gaze burned with a feverish passion, her hands trembled with an intensity she couldn't hide. She rose from her seat as if she had been waiting her entire life for this exact heartbeat. You came out personally." Her voice tripped over itself, filled with breathless adoration. The hero stopped. His face remained a mask of calm, but internally, he felt a sudden weight. He knew this gaze. It was a beautiful trap, a golden cage that threatened to strip away his freedom. He leaned in closer, as if to share an intimate secret, and whispered softly, "I have an urgent order, I must go." The words were a gentle deception, a necessary lie to rescue him from the captivity of her stare. Before she could find her breath to answer, he turned. He didn't just walk. He vanished toward the shadows of the rear exit. The back corridor was cool and dim, smelling of ancient wood and wine-soaked stone. His footsteps echoed like a racing heart seeking its escape. He took a long, jagged breath, feeling the invisible chains fall away. Behind the heavy wooden door of the back exit, the night awaited him, quiet, deep, with moonlight shivering on the cobblestones, and it was this night that held the miracle that would change everything. The shadowed shop and the miracle. He slipped through the rear exit and found himself in the narrow darkness of a storage room. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of ancient cedar and wine-soaked stone. Each breath felt like a draft of pure freedom, finally away from the fans, the noise, and the suffocating weight of 1,000 prying eyes. The hero leaned against the cold wall, closed his eyes, feeling his racing heart slowly find its steady, rhythmic pulse. The silence was absolute, broken only by the distant, rhythmic tap of water dripping from the eaves onto the cobblestones. Then, the miracle happened. There, resting among the shadows, an ancient tarot card began to unfurl. Its edges shimmered with a pale silver light, as if a stray moonbeam had touched the parchment. The ink began to flow, the lines stirred with a life of their own. And then she stepped forth, emerging from the card as if stepping through a doorway from another realm. Her silver hair cascaded like a river of starlight, spilling into the darkness. Her pale face was delicate, as if carved from fine marble. Yet it pulsed with life, Her thin lips held the ghost of a smile mysterious as a dawn that had yet to break. Her eyes glowed with a depth so vast, one could lose themselves in them like an endless midnight sky. The hero froze. His heart stopped for a single, thudding beat, then exploded into a tidal wave of emotion. He couldn't believe what he saw. Had someone told him this was possible, he would have laughed. But here, before his very eyes, a mere symbol was breathing. He fell in love instantly, not gradually, not with caution, but like a bolt of lightning, sudden, without warning, and with terrifying force in his soul. He knew she was the answer to all his searching. The reason for every flight from the hollow echoes of fame. She stood before him, both shadow and light. And in her smile, there was something that tore at his heart, a tenderness that seemed to know its own tragic end. The backstory: the High Priestess. Before she was a face on a card, she was the silence between words, the light between shadows, and the knowledge that never required proof. She was the High Priestess, the keeper of every secret in the world. Her temple stood bathed in an eternal midnight glow, its walls covered in symbols that shifted depending on who dared to look. Books turned their own pages, revealing truths humanity was too afraid to know. In her hands, she always held the veil, the thin fabric between the world of the seen and the world of the hidden. She saw the rise of kings and the fall of empires. She felt the first breath of a newborn and the final sigh of the old. Even the smallest, most trivial events were written in the tapestry of her mind. Her eyes were as deep as the night sky, and anyone who looked into them saw their own destiny staring back. But this knowledge was her curse. She could never feel the thrill of the unexpected. Her existence was as predictable as a book she had already read 1,000 times. She knew the flavor of every meal before it touched her lips. She knew the end of every conversation before it even began. And so, a new desire was born in her heart, the desire not to know. For the first time, she longed for a life that wasn't preordained. She dreamed of tasting an unknown dish and being surprised by its zest. She yearned to laugh at unexpected jokes, to cry over unforeseen losses, and to love without the guarantee that it would last. Her soul whispered, "I want to live where the future has not been written." It was this longing, this hunger for the unknown that finally tore the veil between the world of cards and the world of men. She took a step toward the mystery, and she became real. The first encounter. He stood there hesitant, terrified of breaking the spell of her presence. His steps were soft, yet his heart hammered so loudly he was sure she could hear it. Before him she stood, a silver silhouette stepped from a card, like moonlight that had finally taken human form. As he drew closer, the air between them filled with the scent of his creations, gentle, warm, and spiced. She inhaled, and suddenly, she froze. Her eyes, vast and mysterious, flared with a sudden, sharp curiosity. "Come closer," she said softly, almost a whisper. Yet her voice held the quiet authority of one who had always known the truth. "I want to feel this closer." He let out a nervous laugh. Her request was so simple, yet so profoundly intimate. He leaned in, and she breathed in the scent of his hands, his clothes, the very essence of his life. A smile touched her thin lips, barely there, but undeniably real. "You smell like something new," she said, and those words felt like a benediction. The tension melted into warmth. His eyes lit up, and he reached out a hand. "Come with me. I will show you my kitchen." She nodded, and together they moved. The kitchen greeted them with the amber glow of candlelight and the heady fragrance of spices. The master opened a world of flavors she had never imagined. Every bite was a revelation, every sip a shock of the unknown. She sat at the table while he cooked, and in the quiet spaces between them, an intimacy was born. She, the keeper of secrets who had always known the future, was now laughing at the surprise of a taste. And he, a man who had everything, finally felt that his talent was a gift meant for someone truly special. In that kitchen, their story truly began. A life shared, their days became a journey through invisible realms. He was the master of taste, she was the keeper of secrets she was finally letting go of to feel the pulse of a real life. Living together, every morning was a miracle to her. He brought her new dishes as if opening doors to other realities. One day, it was a honey dessert in the heart of a silver forest, where the trees glowed from within. Another, a spiced feast on the banks of a river that flowed with liquid light instead of water. And then, crusty bread shared in a city where the shop windows mirrored the starry sky. She laughed, marveling at every flavor. In her eyes was a happiness she had never known. She, who had always seen the future, was now living in the moment, and that was her greatest revelation. But she was also his protector. The admirers who once haunted him were now kept at bay. Held behind the veil of her power, she created a sanctuary of freedom around him. A space where he could simply be himself without the fear of intrigue. Without the heavy burden of prying eyes, he fulfilled her dreams by offering the thrill of the unpredictable. She gave him the silence and peace he had always craved. Their life was a form of alchemy. He transformed food into wonder. She transformed his daily life into freedom. Together, they forged a world where every second was uncertain, yet utterly beautiful. The falling star. The street was a riot of light and fragrance. Colored lanterns glowed with a rhythmic pulse, as if sensing the emotions of the crowd. Market stalls overflowed with wonders, sweets that shifted colors as you watched. Spicy herbs that hummed a soft melody, and fruits that glowed with an inner celestial light. She walked beside him, her silver hair catching the flickering lantern light. Her smile was so radiant it seemed to make the very night feel warmer. In her hand, she held a small piece of bread he had just given her. Her eyes sparkled with that familiar wonder to her. Every taste was a newly discovered world. But suddenly, her steps faltered. The smile remained on her lips, but the strength was draining from her body. She swayed, and the bread fell from her hand, and noticed. He was there. He caught her before she could touch the ground. As he pulled her close, he felt her body becoming impossibly light, thin and fragile, like a fading shadow. Her eyes drifted up to his, filled with a happiness so pure it was heartbreaking. "I lived," she whispered. Her voice was like the softest breath of wind through autumn leaves. His heart shattered. He could see her fading, and he knew then that her time among men came with a price he could not change. Yet, even through the pain, he saw that she had found exactly what she had sought, the thrill of the unknown, the beauty of a life that wasn't preordained. He looked into her eyes and saw the reflection of everything: their meetings, the laughter, the scent of the kitchen, the magic of their shared meals. Even as she fell, she was complete. And he stood there broken, yet determined to hold her until her very last breath. The tavern was filled with the low hum of the evening. The air was thick with aromas. Each of the master's dishes glowed with its own unique hue, as if it possessed a soul of its own. Then, the door creaked open. The traveler walked in. His figure was draped in a heavy, dark cloak, and his eyes burned with a strange luminescence, not human, but reminiscent of the glint from distant, alien worlds. He moved slowly, yet every step echoed like the reverberation of a long, cosmic road. He sat down and ordered a meal. The lanterns flared with blinding light. The walls of the tavern seemed to dissolve, and through them, other realities bled into existence, cities floating in the clouds, rivers made of pure radiance, and forests where the trees sang in harmony. The traveler looked up and spoke softly. "Your creations have power. They open doors between realms. I have the strength to move anyone, anywhere. I can save her." The hero froze. His heart tightened with a jagged mixture of hope and terror. He looked at her silver hair, and the smile that was fading, yet still so real. She simply shook her head. Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of a final decree. "I do not wish to return. I choose to stay here, with you." Her words were a seal upon their fate. She chose not eternity within a symbol, but a brief, authentic life. And the hero understood her choice was a love stronger than any world, any magic, or any time. The traveler gave a cryptic smile. His eyes flashed one last time, and he vanished as silently as he had arrived. But his words lingered in the air, the echo of a miracle they had consciously refused. The final sanctuary. Their home was a sanctuary of light amidst the gathering dark. Candles burned low, casting golden reflections across walls that felt alive with memories. Outside, the night unveiled a vast, starry sky, but inside, a silence reigned warm and tender as a shared breath. She lay upon the bed, her silver hair spilling across the pillow like moonlight fallen to earth. Her face was pale, yet exquisite, a flower that retained its majesty even in the moment of its fading. He sat beside her, anchoring her with his hand. His fingers were warm and strong, yet they trembled with the quiet terror of loss. He brought her everything: tastes, aromas, the small joys of the world she had so hungered to feel. It was as if he were trying to bargain with time, offering his soul for just one more moment of her happiness. She gazed at him with eyes that held an ocean of tenderness. Her voice was thin, but every word carried the weight of a prayer. "Do not let go, your hand is my life." Fingers clutched his weak, yet resolute. She would not release him, for she knew now that the most precious thing in her existence was not her ancient knowledge, her prophecies, or the secrets of the cosmos. It was him. He leaned in closer, until their foreheads touched. In that heartbeat, the world vanished. There was no time, no death, no future. There was only their closeness, their warmth, their love. Her smile was barely a ghost, yet it radiated peace. He felt his heart shatter and fill with light all at once, for even as she faded, she was giving him the greatest gift of all, a love that was real, the legacy of the unknown. The night was as silent as a curtain falling on the final act of a play. She lay beside him, her silver hair spilling across the pillow like a lunar stream slowly dissolving into the dark. Her eyes still flickered with tenderness, but the light within them was fading. He held her hand, gripping it as if he could anchor her soul to this world through the sheer force of his own heart. His fingers were warm, but she was becoming weightless, a shadow melting into the air. Her final smile was a stray beam of light, quiet, yet profoundly happy. "I lived," she whispered, her voice like a breath of wind vanishing among the stars. Then, she was gone. He felt her dissolve in his arms, her body turning into light that scattered through the room like silver dust. In that heartbeat, he understood. She hadn't left him with pain, but with a legacy, the art of the unpredictable, a gift he was now meant to share with the world. Years passed. His tavern became the stuff of legends. People traveled from every corner of the earth just to taste his creations. Each dish was a surprise, sweet turning to bitter, bitter to tender, tender to spice. He cooked so that every bite was a miracle, allowing every soul to feel what she had felt, the pure joy of the unexpected. But in his eyes, a shadow always remained. He smiled at his guests, but in the depths of his soul, he still saw her silver hair and the ghost of her smile. She was his inspiration, his love, and his greatest loss. Every dish he created was a prayer to her, a prayer that the world might remember the most precious thing is not to know what comes next, but to live in the moment, to love, to laugh, to cry, and to wonder.